Having clear money boundaries in a relationship is actually really essential. It will help you have a harmonious relationship, but also make sure that you're stable with your finances at the same time. So when I say financial stability, I mean that when you have money boundaries, it means that effectively you have a plan of how you're spending your money without going overboard. And then another thing is that when you're thinking about money boundaries, you're thinking about resolving conflict. So you're trying to prevent conflict before it happens, because what you wouldn't want in your relationship is to maybe spend too much money and you've sort of missed the boundary when it comes to your partner, the other person in the relationship, because they'll look at you like, but why did you do that? Why did you give too much money? Had you guys spoken about what's too much for your relationship? So in this video, what we're going to be doing is talking about 5 areas or 5 things where you should really apply money boundaries, and it will really help your relationship.
So the first area for me would be to effectively be very, very picky about where you get your financial advice or financial tips from.
Yeah.
This is a very, very big one with couples because, one of the reasons why we focus on couples finances on our channel is because there is a nuance to managing money as a couple. There is a very distinct way that is not applicable to people who are not in a relationship or couples who kind of do their own thing, right? But if you're in a relationship and you're trying to figure out, okay, how do we at least manage money together, whether that's 50-50 or whether that's everything all at one pot, whatever that looks like, there is a certain different approach that you then need to take. Now, imagine if you're then getting, financial, guidance in your area in your life from somebody who's not in a relationship. They probably wouldn't fully understand your situation and then be able to guide you in that manner. Now, obviously, you can get guidance from many people, right? But I think the reason why this is important is as a boundary is then because that you would be able to get actual guidance that you can apply in your relationship from people who are in a relationship and people who have also gone through what you are going through, or people who understand fully where you're coming from. Because, it's one thing for me to kind of speak to somebody and say, listen, I want to make this financial decision, but my wife is thinking differently. What do you think I should do? That person that I'm asking that question to, I would like to think that they've also been in that position where their partner thought differently, and I want to know how they came together to an agreement, right? So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about here, of having that boundary of saying, okay, yes, we'll get financial advice and all the rest of it from a personal perspective, but when it comes to couples finances and this area of managing money as a couple, we will be ensuring that we get the right, effective get advice or get guidance from the right places.
And I think whilst you're talking about watching who you get guidance from, I think it's also important to be watchful of who you speak to when it comes to your money situation, because not everyone will understand where you're coming from, or not everyone will sort of receive it well. So be very picky about who you talk to about your money or your money in your relationship per se, because not everyone is where you are and not everyone will see it as you see it. And like you said, sometimes when you're speaking about couples finances, it might be helpful to speak to someone who's maybe cancelled couples or another couple, rather than speaking to someone maybe who's single who might not get it, or someone who's like a family member who'll look at you and think, but why are you doing that with your partner? Why are you doing that with her? Why are you doing that with him? So just be very picky about that as well. For me, the second thing would be when it comes to giving and your generosity. I feel like you need to have a money boundary with this one, simply because if as a couple you need to be in agreement, for example, how much you give or how much you're generous with when people ask you for money. That's the first one. Because what I wouldn't want in my relationship is for someone to come to me and be like, oh, Linda, I'm in a bind. Can you borrow me some money? Can you lend me some money? And I'm like, yeah, sure, just have this money. We manage money jointly. I've now taken the decision that, yeah, I'm going to give this person money. I'm not going to talk to Tando. That already is crossing the boundary, because the least I could have done was just come back to him and be like, okay, so and so has asked me for money. We manage our money jointly. What are you comfortable with lending them? Or number one, are you even comfortable lending them money? But number two, how much are you comfortable lending them? So we then set this boundary that, okay, if someone does ask for money, let's have a chat first. It's our joint money. We need to be on the same page, and we need to be on the same page about how much we're borrowing and lending people. But also when it comes to just giving and not just lending, have a boundary when it comes to that. Discuss how much you're comfortable with giving without getting yourselves into debt, or without getting yourselves to a point where you're living beyond your means, because you always want to live within your means. So have a chat, have a conversation, and come up with a money boundary for that.
The third area that I'd add on to this is that, when it comes to, I guess, your personal spending, spending is an area in which, all of us do, and would encourage that, because obviously there's a lot of things that you want to buy, but have some sort of understanding of, okay, this is how much maximum we'll allocate towards these areas, because there's life to be lived, there's bills to be paid, there's savings, investings, and debt repayments, and even giving, XYZ, there's all of these things. But you need to ensure that you are putting something towards your personal expenses. Even if you are in a relationship, you still have different things that you want. But even within that, just ensure that there is some level of understanding of, okay, there's two boundaries I'm thinking about. The first type of boundary is, okay, this pot of money that's yours and mine, we will not need to have a conversation between the two of us, right? That's the first boundary. It's your money. Do whatever you want with that, and no questions asked, right? The second boundary is then kind of how much that is, ensuring that it's not an amount that would then deter or detract you from achieving your financial goals together.
So the fourth area that I believe couples should have a conversation about and come up with a money boundary is when it comes to making large purchases, right? Especially if the large purchases affect the both of you and affect both your money. So a good example is maybe deciding that, okay, we need a new car. The car that we have is no longer doing it for us, or it's not working as well. It's just costing too much to just, keep running it. Let's get a new car. I would like to think, or I would love that in our relationship, one of us doesn't just go out and get a car and then bring it home like, oh yeah, by the way, we've got a new car, just to let you know. Number one, why didn't we have a conversation about the car that we were going to get? But most importantly, why didn't we have a conversation about the money that was used to either buy the car outright, or the money that we'll be paying for finance, for example? And this one is a big one, because if you do not have a discussion about what's comfortable for the both of you to spend on this car, or what's acceptable for you guys to manage on a monthly basis in paying for the car, you will end up having a lot of conflict, because one of you will be like, but why didn't we have the conversation? Why did you feel the need to just go out and do something without consulting me or talking to me or us coming to an agreement? So effectively, the reason why it's important to put a money boundary when it comes to large purchases is really to avoid conflict, and for you guys to not disagree about your money, but be on the same page and be in agreement about what's comfortable for you both.
The fifth boundary for me would be to stop trying to keep up with the Joneses. This is an area in your relationship where couples fall into easily. We've done this, right? You look at other couples, they're driving a nicer car, they're living in a bigger home, they have this, that, and the other that you think, oh, we'd love that. We'd love to do that. Of course, and therefore we should also try and keep up with what they're doing, right? They're going on holiday 3 times a year. We should do the same thing, and whatever the case is. Now, the reason why you want to put a boundary around this is because if you're not careful, when you're starting to effectively want what other people have or what other couples have, you will end up making bad financial decisions on the back of trying to keep up with them.
Right.
So coming back to the car example, if we were to see another couple driving a fancier or nicer car than ours, and we felt that we wanted that car as well, but realistically we couldn't afford it according to our own budget, but what we might end up doing is signing up a very expensive car lease option to get that car, not because we can afford it, not because we really wanted it, to be fair, but because we are trying to keep up. So the boundary here is stop trying to keep up with other couples and literally run your own lane, be in your own pace, and be in your own race, in the sense that just do what works for you. Effectively act your wage and live according to your means, and just do what works for you. And then eventually, you can work towards your goals. That's a different thing. But what I'm talking about is not trying to keep up with all these different couples, because it is that kind of environment we're living in, where there's so much comparison that happens, particularly on, with social media and all the rest of it. But just cancel the noise and just say, listen, from now on, we're just going to do what works for the both of us based on what we can afford, and ensure that we are both happy within our 4 walls.
So yeah, if you found what we've had to say today or share with you guys today really useful, let us know in the comments section. Let us also know what other money boundaries you believe other couples should have. Money boundaries that maybe you're applying in your relationship, or you've seen other people apply and you've seen them work. Let us know in the comment section. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed already to our channel. Hit that subscribe button and we'll catch you soon.